I want to give a special shout out to all my patrons, my Bibliosprand, Bibliohowlers, and Bibliomancers. Thank you so much for supporting my hobby and passion even more. It means so much to me. Hi everyone, Petrik here. So today's video, this will be the first time I made this kind of video on my YouTube channel, and I have actually deliberated whether I should post a video like this or not. But there are many requests for me to do this kind of video every year, so you know what, I thought I might as well do one this year. So today I will be talking about the most disappointing books of the year for me. But let me be very clear about this first. Just because I found these books a bit disappointing, it certainly doesn't mean that you shouldn't read them. Especially because the books that I'm going to mention on today's video, I think they are very much well loved. But I think occasionally, like once or twice a year, I think it's good to actually mention why certain books, certain popular and highly praised books just didn't work for me. I mean, thinking about it, there are plenty of reviewers and readers who think that I only ever dislike 4 books or 5 books. That is just insane, you know. Just insane. Just because I don't always shout out about the books that I dislike, because I do not like to do that, that doesn't mean that I love or like every book I read. If I DNF a book, I don't leave a review, and I usually do not talk about them. Not often. I will probably mention once or twice and then that's it. There is really no need for me to keep on sharing my hatred towards some books, although I do hate Uprooted. I will always repeat that one. But yeah, today's video will be about 6 books that I read within this year that I found to be incredibly disappointing, unfortunately. And 2 of them are graphic novels. And I'm going to start by talking about the novels first. The first one is In the Shadows of Lightning by Brian McClellan. This is the first book in a new series titled Glass Immortals. And In the Shadows of Lightning was one of my most anticipated books of this year. Ever since I saw the gorgeous cover art done by Dan Burgess, and the fact that I actually love the Powder Mage trilogy and its continuation, Sins of Empire and more, I really thought that I'm going to be head over heels for In the Shadows of Lightning by Brian McClellan. But as it turns out, I was just disappointed with this one, and I do not even think that this was thoroughly bad or something like that. But In the Shadows of Lightning, to put it in one word, it was just okay. Everything about it was okay. It wasn't good, it wasn't amazing, it also wasn't bad. So everything about it was just okay and ultimately forgettable. For me anyway. I think In the Shadows of Lightning would have worked so much more for me if I haven't read a lot of adult epic fantasy novels. Right now, if you ask me what I remember about this book, all I remember is that the prologue was incredible, and then that's it. I remember the main character, even though he went through a trauma in the prologue that sent him to an exile, and when we get to meet the main character again, Devin is one of the main characters in the Shadows of Lightning. When we get to meet him, it really seemed like he's doing pretty well, and there doesn't seem to be any complexities or remorse or feeling of sadness in his character at all. And that's just one of my main issues with the book. I think almost all the main characters are pretty much forgettable. I cannot even remember who the other main characters again now. The only character that I think was quite memorable, it was a character named Baby Montego, but that's it. So yeah, I think In the Shadows of Lightning, even though it has a great prologue and also great magic system that is reminiscent of Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, I think at the end of the day, In the Shadows of Lightning was just disappointing to me. I don't know whether I will continue with the series or not. Maybe after the series is done, I will try to read the series again from the beginning and maybe finish it. But I make no promises on this. Going back to what I said in the beginning of this video though, In the Shadows of Lightning received many positive reviews, so definitely do not just take my opinion on this. And then the next disappointing book, unfortunately, will have to be The Garden of Empire by J.T. Greathouse. This is the second book in the Pact and Pattern trilogy. This is the sequel to The Hand of the Sun King. So if you've been on my channel for a while now, I think you will know how much I love The Hand of the Sun King by J.T. Greathouse. The Hand of the Sun King was actually my favorite fantasy debut for a debut published last year that I read within last year as well. Yeah, I love The Hand of the Sun King so much. It was easily one of my favorite fantasy debut. And because of that, I was so looking forward to reading The Garden of Empire. But after reading through the book, I must say that my experience of reading this one is kinda reminiscent of me actually reading Tower Lord by Anthony Ryan after loving Bloodsong so much. Bloodsong focused on one main character, Valin Alsorna, as the main character. And in Tower Lord, the second book, Anthony Ryan decided to shift the main series into a multiple POV narration. And that is the same thing that happened in The Garden of Empire. The Hand of the Sun King focused only on one main character through his first-person POV when out there. And in the second book, it is a multiple POV book now. There are now 4 POV characters, and only one is told through first-person POV, and that is for Gwen Alder, the main character from the first book. For the rest, they are told from a third-person POV narration. But unfortunately, these characters, almost all of them just didn't work for me. One of the characters that I really want to have, the author has mentioned that he tried to actually implement this particular character that I mentioned into the narrative, and he just couldn't make it work. And I think that's kind of a shame, because if he actually could succeed at doing that, I think the Garden of Empire would have been so much more intriguing. Plus, I think this book is plagued with what we all would call the second book syndrome. So not a lot of important things happen in this book, and then there were plenty of questionable character behavior that I hope will be explained in the third book. But fortunately, the ending of the Garden of Empire was just amazing, and I must say that I'm still looking forward to reading the third book, especially after that explosive ending. I really hope that JT Greathouse will at least succeed at nailing the conclusion to this trilogy, because even though I was disappointed with the Garden of Empire, I still love reading Greathouse prose, and I think if Greathouse could actually craft a third book as good or even better than The Hand of the Sun King, I still would end up considering this trilogy to be one of my favorite trilogies. But again, I guess we'll find out when the third book comes out. And then the next most disappointing book that I read within this year, it was this is a very popular book, okay? This is Sword of Destiny by Andrzej Sapkowski. So this is the second collection of short stories in the Witcher saga, and yeah, I was just super disappointed with Sword of Destiny. Almost all the short stories contained in this collection just didn't work for me, and after reading this collection of short stories, I actually end up disliking Dandelion so much. I hate that character in Sword of Destiny. And thinking about it, it wasn't only Dandelion, although I wouldn't say that I hate these characters, but Geralt and also Yennefer. Oh, I must say though that I dislike Yennefer. I'm not a fan of Yennefer. Never been a fan of her in the games, in the show, or even in the books so far. So yeah, I think that's a very unpopular opinion, but I really don't like the way Geralt and Yennefer interact with each other. I don't know whether this is translation issue or not, but they really acted like they are YA characters. And not a good one too. They are like infuriating YA characters in love. And The Witcher was honestly one of my priority series to start and finish within this year, but after being just so disappointed with Sword of Destiny, I still haven't continued with the series yet. If Blood of Elves, the first main novel in the series, or maybe the rest of the series didn't end up working for me, I think it would make me really hate The Witcher, and I do not want to tarnish my memory and opinion of the game, which I really love. So as I said, that's an unpopular opinion, right? Well, the next one is even more of an unpopular opinion. The next and last novel in my most disappointing read of the year, it is Dreadgod by Wight. Dreadgod is the 11th and the penultimate installment of the Cradle series, one of my favorite ongoing series, and even though I'm disappointed with this one, I still consider Cradle one of my favorite ongoing series. That will not change. But I think Dreadgod as a penultimate installment was disappointing. I have actually discussed in full details why I found Dreadgod to be disappointing, but I just don't think that this book deserves to be this long. And this book isn't even long compared to many other epic fantasy novels, but it is the longest in the Cradle series. But many events in this book, I just didn't find them interesting. I think they are full of fillers. Like for example, Linden, the main character, has become just super strong. But one of the main plot points in Dreadgod is for the main character Linden to actually wait for his friends to catch up, to level up to his level. And this training montage in the penultimate installment of the Cradle series really felt like they're fillers to actually make the book longer than it should be. That's my opinion anyway, and I know that this is an unpopular opinion. I really love the opening section and also the ending section of Dreadgod, and I hope that Wight with Waybound, the last book in the series, I hope that he will be able to conclude this super highly praised self-published fantasy series magnificently. But seriously, my unpopular opinion is just like one drop of tears in the sea. It's just nothing. This book still has an immensely high average rating and sales everywhere. Honestly, I don't know anyone other than me. Oh, you know what? I know one person other than me who actually found this to be disappointing as well, and that is Matt Book Review. So I guess I'm not really alone on this, but my god, we are lonely in our opinion on Dreadgod. So that's all the novels I read within this year that I consider to be the most disappointing. But again, I still think that they are very much worth the read if you're interested in reading them. As for the graphic novels that I found to be super disappointing, it makes me sad to say this, but these are the third and fourth volume of Bloodborne graphic novel adaptation. Now, I have mentioned so many times now, even though this is a book channel, I have mentioned so many times how much I love games published by From Software games, like Demon's Souls, Dark Souls Trilogy, Bloodborne, Sekiro, and also Elden Ring. I love them all of them. And after hearing that there is actually a graphic novel adaptation of Bloodborne, I was interested because the artwork are stunning. Seriously, there is nothing wrong with the artwork of the graphic novel. They are incredible. But story-wise and writing-wise, especially in the third and fourth book, I must say that they left a lot to be desired. If you haven't played the game and you think that reading this graphic novel will actually make you want to try the game, I do not think that is a good idea. Just start playing the game. It is miles apart better than the graphic novels, just miles apart. I know that they are two different storytelling medium, but still, if you want to get the ultimate reward of experiencing the story and atmosphere in Bloodborne, play the video game. Simple as that. Volume 3 and Volume 4 of the graphic novel adaptation were just incredibly disappointing. I actually gave both of them 1 out of 5 stars, and trust me, I very rarely gave any book 1 star now. So that's the end of today's video. These are just my opinions. It's okay for you to disagree with anything I just mentioned. I totally don't mind that. I mean, we are all different readers and we all have different experience when we read a book. And I don't know whether I will actually repeat making this kind of video again next year or not, but I guess we'll see what my mood states next year. But yeah, I think that's the end of today's video. If you have read any of the books I mentioned, do tell me whether you agree with me or not, or maybe you love them all. And again, I totally don't mind. I think that is good if you end up loving them all. But for me, these were disappointing. And also, do tell me which books you read within this year that you found to be the most disappointing. So yeah, that's it for me today. As always, thank you so much for watching and thank you for your support. Bye bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.